Hello, everyone. My name is Glenn, username GLNPWL. I change my nickname often. So, anyway, this is my tutorial. What I want to do today is first, I'm going to let you guys kind of see what's possible with the Maker Pen, sort of look around. This is actually my dorm room at the moment. It's still a work in progress. But what I'm going to do is show you kind of what is capable with the Maker Pen. So over here is a elevator. We can step inside and we can hit lift. And this will take me up to a second floor. I can now go through this door. Sometimes it's a little clunky. And up here you have a second level. To go back down, we will go back through the door. Also, you have flying. I can show you how to enable that. Sometimes it helps when you get stuck. And so we're going to go back down the elevator. I am currently trapped inside, so I'll set that, and that'll bring me back out here. So you can tell that this is very different from the standard dorm room, and what I want to do is show you guys kind of how to customize your dorm room and give you a quick overview of the Maker Pen, because a lot of people tend to go into great detail on one thing and you learn that maybe, but you don't really understand how everything else works, and so it don't really benefit you as much as you would like. And I'd kind of like to give you a quick overview of just enough to be able to do what I've got here and or make your own items with the Maker Pen. So once you have everything in a dorm room or in any custom room and rec room, you can actually delete everything. And that's what I'm going to do to start out. So if I go to my backpack and I hit Maker Pen use, that'll give me the Maker Pen. When you hold it up towards you, you get all of these options right here. So the first thing is I want to open palette, and in settings over here, I can now hit delete everything. And so if I hit that, it's going to ask me if I'm sure, and I'm going to say yes. And now I'm back to the standard dorm room. As you can see, everything else is gone. So what we're going to do to start out is I'm just going to kind of give you a overview of the Maker Pen, sort of how it works. Two things that you're going to use a lot are edit and create. And so open palette is another one that is basically going to give you this little display over here that you can actually carry and move around so that you can orient it in front of you where you want it. And so what we're going to do is we'll start off with shapes. What you want to do is you want to be on create, and we'll start with a cube. And so we're just going to make a cube here. Okay, the next thing, that once you have a cube, you can do multiple things with it. So first off, we're going to hit recolor, and we're going to select, over here we have materials. This is actually in a newer update that was released. So you can select different materials. This one is more metallic, that one is more kind of wood grain. We'll go with the metallic one, and we will select there. And as you can see, now this has kind of a metallic look to it. You can hit colors over here on the display, and you can actually change the metallic color of the item. So you can really customize how you want it to look. If we wanted it to be wood grain, for example, now it's a wooden block. So I mentioned earlier that you would use edit a lot, and so the reason why is because sometimes, by the way, it's a good idea just to kind of drop your Maker Pen and repick it back up if you feel like you're kind of stuck in a setting. But if I hit edit and I click here, I can now actually edit like individual elements of an entire creation, basically. And so if I want to, for example, scale this block, I can actually do that one side or another, up and down. And so what I want to do is work with this block and do some different things with it to give you guys an idea of what all you can do. And so with recoloring, if I do red brick there, okay, and now I say I want the front end though to be metallic. What I could do is hit create, I could hit cube, and I could create another. You probably want this one to be really skinny. So we're going to make like kind of a wall that's going to go sort of in front of this. Now, one of the things that I'm using that I haven't explained yet is up here you have these three icons. These will help you align things more correctly with what's nearby it. This is kind of like a magnet to kind of help it sometimes stick to the object that you're trying to work with it on. So what I want to do is I want to make this side more metallic and I want the rest of it to be brick. So how do I do that? Well, first I've created this other wall here. So what I want to do now is to scale it. So I'm going to first, let me back up just 1 second and I'm going to show you guys this. You can select two objects and you get these three circles. When you do that, if you click it, it's going to say merge shapes. If I click merge shapes, these items are now one. Okay, and I may actually have this frozen. No, it wasn't frozen. But these items are now one. So if I move them, it's going to move together. And what I want to do is obviously, you know, this is way bigger than this block, and I want to shrink it down to the same size. So what I've got to do now is hit edit, and now if I click here, I'm now just modifying this one piece. If I were to, for example, and I'm going to drop my maker pen and pick it back up, if I were to click recolor right now, and I were to hit, say, a different texture, it would affect the entire thing. Now, for reference, down here you have undo recolor shapes. You can always undo or redo anything that you've done. So if you're used to working on Windows, maybe you do, you know, Command Z on like a Mac or Control Z on Windows to undo your last action. This is kind of like that. So we can undo the last action. So now it's back to the way it was. So if I hit edit and then I hit recolor, now I'm only editing this one item. And I said I wanted it to be metallic, and we're going to kind of go with a different color. So we'll go with this color here. Now that I've done that, I can see that a small piece is coming through here. So I know that I want to move it. I need to hit edit again, and then I can move this piece individually. I can kind of get it lined up like how I want it. And so what I want to do now is I need to scale it. So I'm still in edit mode. I'm still just working on this one piece. So we're going to hit scale. When I click it, you're going to get these little arrows. When you hover over them, you'll see them kind of grow. That's when you want to click and hold down on your maker pen. So first we'll start from the bottom and we'll bring it up. We want to align it just as even as we can. Now I'm not going to make this perfect. I'm just wanting to give you guys an idea of how the maker pen works. I'm going to come around to this side so that I can actually see where the corners are, try to get it kind of close as possible there. This one's already fairly good. And then the top, of course, we need to bring it down. And so I may actually need to move around to this side to make sure that it's nice and even, or as even as we can get it there. So now I actually have a brick wall with a shiny side here. And if I want to move this closer, I can do that. Again, we would just move that in on it. And it does take sometimes a little bit of practice to get it exactly the way you want. So this could be maybe like a bar or something to that nature. Now, if I want to, I'm going to go ahead and move this down to the ground over here. So now if I wanted to maybe have, you know, like a glass or something else up on top up here, I could certainly do that also. You can modify any shape in Rec Room. And so I told you I was going to kind of go over each of these. I'm going to do that now. Again, we've gone over edit. That allows you to edit specific objects within an invention that you've created. create. There's multiple different types of things you can create. You can create shapes, and I won't go over each of these specifically. You can go in and try it. Gadgets. This is something you will probably want to watch a whole other tutorial on. It's a little bit more involved. These are things that would allow you to do things like the lift and the elevator that I went up earlier, or maybe if you've ever seen custom guns that fire, these are what make those things possible. And when you learn how to use them, you can do all kinds of cool things. But again, watch a whole tutorial on that because I don't want to take up your time with, the specifics of this. You have multiple props, so you can do all of the things that you find in the quest, like the stool or the gun. If I want a flintlock, I simply click that, and now I have a flintlock. And so you can go through and you can see all the different things that you can create. You have all different categories of things that you can choose from as well. If you've ever seen people making costumes, that's in dynamic, and you can choose that here. So one of the things that we'll go over here a little bit later is Inventions, and I'll explain how that works as well. But for right now, I want to continue going over some of the things here that you can do with the Maker Pen and how each of these work. So we've gone over Select, we've gone over Move, and by the way, when you hit Move and you click something, you can also get these little arrows here that will allow you to get perfect left and right angles, or even up and down angles, so that you can align it perfectly how you want it. Rotate is a little bit different, but it allows you to rotate the item if you need to turn it or anything, so that you're not trying to do it with your hands. Scale, we've covered that. We used that when we aligned this piece in front of the brick. Wire is something that you're going to use once you learn the gizmos. Once you learn how to use those, the little things that look like game chips that we covered earlier, that are over here, the gadgets. I think I have a habit of saying gizmos, but these are gizmos. But once you use these gadgets, you'll be able to learn how to do wiring. And so configure is something that might take a little bit of getting used to and learning exactly what it does. You have 4 types of physics mode. For me, the most common one I use is environment. And part of the reason for that is because when you're on environment, you can usually place things inside other elements easily without it jumping around. If I were to, example, hit configure and hit this and do physical, that is not going to stay in there because it's now a physical element. So I tend to stick with, unless I want it to be that way, I tend to stick with environment. And I'll let you guys play with some of these, but kind of give you an understanding how that works. Environment is good if you want it to stick into another object. So this one here is really important, respawn. If you create something in your room, or you create like maybe a template room or something, and you want other people to be able to use it, it's very important to know how to respawn that element. So what I can do over here is I can set a timer, and I can say I want that to respawn every 2 seconds, but then I have to check that checkbox. And so now what's going to happen is if I come over here and I move this bar and I wait, it's going to move back to its original location where I set that at. And so that is one of the more important things that you can learn from configure. You can also choose if it's grabbable or not. You can set tags for it, hide during games. Those things, but the most important one is probably the respawn. Clone. Clone is really important because what it allows you to do is clone an item, and so you have 2. And again, just as I had mentioned earlier, if I were to hit edit, I now have just this metallic piece. I can hit clone, and I can clone it out. Now what's important to know, that right now these 2 objects are still one. So if I release that, this object here, now remember I cloned it, so there's 2, but this object here and this object are still part of the same element. And now I do have two of these, so I am going to delete one of them. And I believe that will leave me with one. Yep. Okay, so now to cover one other thing here, if I go ahead and I hit edit and I clone this out again, what I want you guys to see is even though it is one element, I can actually separate these two elements also. So to do that, what I would do is I would hit select, and I would select this element. Oh, I'm sorry. First we need to hit edit, and then we're going to hit select here, and I get those three bubbles. When I get that, I can click it and it'll say split shapes. If I split the shapes, it is now a different element from this one. So now I can move this element independently, and it is no longer part of this invention right here. So when you're working with an invention that you've downloaded or one that you've got from a friend or something that you've made, if you need to split it apart from something that you've already made, that is how that's done. So we've gone over recoloring already, so I won't touch on that again. Freeze. Freeze basically means that you cannot move the object. It will not let me move the object with my hand, and it will not let me move the object with the maker pen either. It'll just stay where it's at. And so as soon as I unfreeze it by clicking it again, now it will be movable once again. Delete does exactly what you would think. It deletes. So I could, again, hit edit. I could hit delete and delete just that one part. Or I could, I'm going to go ahead and undo that. I could hit get out of the edit mode and just be on delete, and it would delete the entire shape. I'm going to undo that as well. And so this one here, manipulate, allows you to do some different things. It's kind of like scale, but you can manipulate the object in more than one way. And so you can really change how an item or a piece, something that you've created, is scaled in multiple different forms. I'm going to take that back down to where it was by undoing. And the last thing here is that you can make an invention of something. So say you make this and you want to use it in another room. You can do that by simply making it an invention, which will save it into like your own personal kind of folder in Rec Room, to where you can pull it out anytime you want and you can place it in any other room. And so what I would do is I would hit Make Invention. When I select this, it's going to say I have one item selected, that's all I want. If I wanted this item to be part of that invention, I can select it also, and it'll say now I have two. I'm not going to select that one, just the one, and I will hit Next. You have to name the invention, so we'll call this My Bar, and we will hit Next. It don't really need a description, but if you want one, you can put it in there. It's optional. You're then going to get a camera, and all you got to do is take a picture of it. It's going to say confirm. Once you've done that, now you have an invention, and it's going to tell me that it's created. I can spawn it when I want. It's going to give me the details over here. I'll talk about publish here in just a second. What I want to do is go to Inventions. I'll see my inventions. I can now click My Bar, and if I click the trigger, I will get another bar identical to that one. And what, if you didn't notice when it just poofed away, what actually happened is because I had done configure on this and I had actually set up a respawn, the invention actually maintains that respawn, and it will know where to go when it's being used. So now there's actually two of these here. And I can configure that, so I'm going to let it go back to where it was. I can hit configure again, click here, uncheck it so it don't respawn, and now when I move this one will no longer respawn. This one, of course, would still have the respawn on it. And so if you create something you want to upload to the Invention store, what's great about this is if, say, you made a custom basketball hoop and backboard, you could have it basically configured to respawn right here, so when somebody else downloads it and goes to use it, it will automatically spawn right there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete these items, Um, and just for quick reference, in case you guys didn't know, you can actually scale up in-game items too, not just stuff that you've made from the Maker Pen. So what I want to do, as I said, is I want to kind of give you an idea how you can quickly, without a lot of knowledge, customize your dorm room. So the first thing you want to do is you want to hit create an open palette. You want to be on Inventions, and then you want to go over here to get more Inventions. That's going to open the store, and you want it to be on Inventions, which it should already be. Now what I can do is I can search for something, and I'm going to search for dorm and hit search. And that's going to pull up multiple different things that other users have uploaded as inventions for anybody to use. And so as we go through these, you'll see different, like they may not all say skins and whatnot. Some of them you have to hit here and read the description. So this one here is called Dorm Penthouse. I actually already have downloaded that one. And so here's another one, Neon Dorm. We can give this one a try, so we will hit get, and then we will hit confirm. Once I've done that, it's now inside. If it's completed downloading, it would now be inside my Inventions. Sometimes it don't show right away right here, so if you tap over and go back, it'll be there. So what we're going to do is it's there. We're going to click it, and we're going to create it. And now it's there. Now you're like, oh, what am I going to do with this? Well, what you first want to do is you're just going to kind of not do anything. So it's not spawning into place, so they may not have configured it, but first we're going to make sure it's not frozen. If it is, it was. So we unfroze it. Now they did have it configured to respawn, and now everything is already set kind of the way they wanted it. It does look like there may be a couple things out of place, but this gives you a very customized dorm. And we can come over here and see, we hit edit so that we're just selecting those stairs. It's saying that it's frozen. And there it goes. Now it's respawned. So we'll go up here, kind of check this out, see what's going on. So what is something you will want to do with once you get this in here is customize it more. And how do you do that? Okay, well, it's important to note that not all inventions are editable. Some people who create inventions don't want their things being edited, and they're saying, if you use my invention, you have to use it exactly as it is. But if they want you to be able to edit it, you will have that ability. The way that you check that is you just hit edit and click it. And if it don't say, hey, you can't edit this, you can. So maybe you want this second floor up here to be bigger than what it is. To do that, we'll hit edit on this piece. And as I did earlier with the bar, we're going to hit scale. And we're just going to click right there. And we're going to drag this all the way out. And so now I have a much bigger balcony up here. Now, if we wanted to, per se, move this fence, that's totally possible too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to see if it's one element or not. And it don't look like it is. So we're going to, now if I clicked here and I hit split shapes, that would separate it. I'm not going to do that because I kind of like having everything in one shape. And I haven't actually tested this, but I've been told that if everything is one shape, it actually takes up less ink. Your ink is how much stuff you can create in a room. And once it's gone, you have to delete things to be able to get those back. So if I now select all the pieces of this little fence here, and creating things, modifying things, it does take time, it does take patience. But now that I have all these, I can now move this element. So I'm going to hit move. I will simply click on it, and now I can hit, even though the arrow is going to the right, when I cover over it, I can still drag that to the left. Now I will admit I messed up there. I meant to do everything. So we are trying to take this fence and push it over all the way against the edge. And so now we can click here and we can drag this over. Now what I'm realizing when I do this is that I don't actually need this part anymore. So what I can do now is I can hit edit, and now I can delete these parts individually. And by the way, while I'm in edit mode, I can't delete, oh, I take that back. Well, those were part of the undo. Those were part of what I was editing. So they're deletable, but the rest of this, I'm hitting delete right now, and I can't actually delete. Again, that was part of what I was editing, unless it was part of what you originally were editing. So now that was a mistake, but it will respawn back to its original place as it was supposed to do. Now what I can't do is modify things that were originally part of, you know, the rec room, dorm room, like the stairs, and so I can't change that. But what you could do potentially is you could cover these stairs up with your own stairs. Now in order for that to work, because you might be able to make one where you can jump and climb it, you could create one where you could teleport up there, or you may choose to just leave it like this. But I've now modified this original invention into something more custom. So when I talked about earlier, sometimes inventors don't want you modifying their things. Even sometimes the inventors that do let you modify their things, they don't want you to resave them as an invention. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You can test that by, well, for one, you can, when you go to create, open palette, and you look at the inventions, you can hit right here, and it will actually tell you what they saved their invention as and what rights you have. And so that one's edit and save. So if I hit make invention and I select everything, and now I've got the entire invention selected, I can hit next, call it custom dorm. Next, I'll take my picture, hit confirm. And so what I'm going to do now is I want to show you that if I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete everything again. If I come in here and I do create, open palette, inventions, and I click custom dorm, and now I click this, I've brought it back in, it is going to automatically load in just like it did the first time, but now it's got all my customizations and everything there. I could actually then re-upload this and save it as an invention, and you do that by going to the invention, hitting right here and hitting publish, and maybe I would call this, you know, version 2 of whatever it was originally named or something along those lines. And so you can really do pretty much anything you want. One of the last things I'm going to show you guys, and it's not really so much about the maker pen, but I feel like it is because I think it's almost a necessary, is the ability to fly. So to do that, when you go to this room, if you go to setup, and then I believe it's roles, it's been a little bit, you go to shared. No, that is not wanting me to do that. Sorry guys, it has been a little bit since I had to set that up. Dorm room. Okay, there we go. So what you're going to do, just to walk back, we're going to go to permissions, we're going to go to dorm room, you're going to go to can use maker pen, and right here you can, it's going to be usually unchecked by default. You would check that. You can slide it over to no or yes. And then if it's checked yes, and by the way, just so you know, you have multiple rights. You can have people use your maker pen in their maker pen in your dorm room, but if you don't want them to save any of your stuff, you can uncheck save, can save inventions, or make sure it's set to no. That way they're not able to save anything you create. But I'll let you guys go through this or watch another tutorial. I just want to teach you guys how you can fly in your room. So now when I jump, you see that little green line? If I jump and I get that green line and it completes, I can now hold my hand and kind of move it up slowly, and I'm actually able to fly. This comes in really handy when you need to get at weird angles when you're creating stuff, or you want to be able to scale but you got a wall in your way, because you can actually move through and face through walls. One thing to note though with the dorm room is that if you actually go too far, it will respawn you completely. So as you can see, I've now respawned back into my dorm. So they kind of have a barrier as to how far you can go. Once you're flying, you won't be able to jump because you're still in fly mode. So I can't say for everybody, it's different for every device. I can't snap, turn, or jump. I need to fall back down and get out of walking mode. For me, I'm on Oculus Rift, so I'm actually going to press the X button, and now I'm back on the ground. I can jump, I can snap, turn. And so this is a very basic overview of how to use the Maker Pen, how to customize your dorm, and give you an idea of how you can do these things, or go acquire new items, maybe customize them, make them a little bit more of your own. And I hope this really helps you out, guys. I've helped a few people kind of set up their dorm quick and easy, and they usually were like, I can never have done this without you. It's really not hard. It's not really even hard to make this entire thing from scratch if you have the time to do that. So good luck to you guys, and maybe I'll do another tutorial later to help you guys learn something else, or maybe something that I covered a little bit more in detail. And I look forward to seeing what you guys create and what you upload as inventions. So anyway, I'm going to get this video cut off. I thank you guys again, and I look forward to seeing what you're able to create in Rec Room.